I think it's a pretty good machine. We have 510K, so it's a registered Class 1 medical device. So is the lubricant. Less expensive than all the others and still has all the bells and whistles. And what I mean by that, all the different lube adapters are available. It has a motor to rotate the 1 to 5 and any contra angle that you snap to it. Has the auto chuck cleaning station. Has a little vacuum to suck all that oil onto the diaper and the bottom of it in the tray.
What's that retail for?
Suggested retail is $18.99.
And what can you get it in for?
Behind door number 3. We're working on that, but it will be, let's say, an attractive price. Because what we want to do is get them out there. We're going to take a very slim margin. So that you guys can make an impact. You guys can get a benefit of most of the revenue stream. The other part of it is we're going to provide the lubricant. Still details to work out with Paul on what to put on the label. And the other factor, and this is a selling point, it is a registered device with the FDA, as is the cleaner and lubricant that comes with it. So these are selling points. There's so much junk coming out of China that, you know, they'll tell you, but no. You know, it's garbage, and I think you're experiencing some of that.
Don't get a TPC.
There you go. Bless you.
Thank you.
Is that a free station unit?
Yes. It has the 1 gear drive or motor drive, and then 2 high-speed stations, and then an auto check station.
Cool.
1 to 5 contra angles. There's actually been 2 FDA advisories, but regarding the potential for patient injury due to improperly maintained or failing speed increasing contra angle attachments. What happens in use is the doctor's been using a high-speed air-driven handpiece for so many years. When they start malfunctioning, they stop working. You can't cut. Difference is a micromotor driven speed increasing contra angle achieves 200,000 RPM by a micromotor running at 40,000 RPM in the amount of torque. So while you're using it in the patient's mouth, friction from the internal bearings and gears can cause overheating and possibly burn a patient. There's been many documented occurrences of 2nd and even 3rd degree burns to a patient's cheek, tongue, roof of the mouth, and gums. In fact, I saw a pretty unfortunate picture of about a quarter-size burn on a cheek of a beautiful woman. So it's something that happens. Minimize heat by following manufacturer's lubrication and maintenance procedures and confirming that there is adequate air and water flow during use. That's important. Got to turn the water and the coolant, the chip air on the units to run these motors. It runs the coolant air and the water through the handpiece while it's operating. And then also perform our feel, listen, and touch testing before each procedure. And this is something that we've promoted. And
you know
this
where
is
we can find that advisory? Because I've got an office that's had a couple of issues like
I'll
that.
see if I have copies of it. So could you write that down on your business card if you'd like to get one of the advisories? There's been 2, but I do have it somewhere in my archives. Now this is a service you can provide in office. And this is actually something you should do if you're in an office that uses 1 to 5s. So what we recommend that you do is the fill process. You insert a burr into the handpiece, into the contra angle, and spin it. It should spin freely, shouldn't make any weird noises or feel rough. And this is something you guys should already know and understand by rotating a high-speed handpiece. Same thing, but this is a gear-driven high-speed. So it should feel nice and smooth. If it doesn't, tell the doctor it has to be serviced. And most of the heat is generated by gear degradation. It doesn't efficiently rotate and it generates heat. So if it felt okay, now you can listen to it. Connect the attachment to the motor, turn the cooling air on and the water, and the motor, gradually increase the speed on the unit to 40K. Let it run for 30 to 45 seconds while the water and the air is flowing. And listen. If it has a nice even hum, like you guys are accustomed to, even with a high-speed handpiece, if periodically it makes weird noises or sounds like marbles are rumbling through it, there's a problem. And listen for those unusual grinding or clicking noises when operating in forward and in reverse. You should do it both ways, because they are used in both ways. Okay, any questions? Then you can do the touch. While running the handpiece at full speed, touch the head and neck areas and check for excess of heat. It should feel cool to the touch. The standard for most 1 to 5s that we do the factory repairs on is maximum 102 degrees. So it's like your skin, a little bit warmer. But that's fairly cool to the touch. And usually a malfunctioning one, after it's been running for 30 to 45 seconds, will heat up to where you can't touch it. Now, when a doctor's using that in a patient's mouth, the thing is still cutting. It still kind of sounds okay, but that heat is being generated inside of the patient's mouth. And that's where they cannot tell, meaning the practitioner, that that handpiece is malfunctioning.
Neither can the patient because they're numb.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't
Until they
go on
start
though.
smelling
Yeah,
skin burn.
Chicken patties.
So this is really important, and you guys get FaceTime, and this is the type of check service that, could be created into a revenue stream for you guys. But it's important to the end user, and that's the added value that you're providing to your customers. Last thing you want to be involved in, anything to do with that doctor causing a patient injury, especially if it leads to a lawsuit. They'll drag everybody into the fray. So, okay, any questions? You have a copy of that flyer in your welcome pack, and Paul also has the PDF, right? Yeah, that way he can reprint some for you. All right, auto chucks. There's 3 types. 2 that are most common, and then a 3rd that's horrible. Clamp pad auto chuck system. Here's what it looks like. The actual clamping part of this are these are 2 pads that float in this carrier. It's actually the actuator. That's this part of it when it's in the assembly. And this sleeve here is machined at a taper. It's all compressed by this, what started off being a coil spring, but then it's honed and ground precision to fit in these chuck systems. So the clamping part of this are these 2 little pads. The one advantage we built into our Timken design is the curvature of the ID of the clamp pads are a tighter radius than that of the shank of the burr. So when it's new, it clamps on 30% of each end of each of the 2 clamp pads. Burrs slip inside chuck systems. Doesn't matter if it's clamp pad, wedge design, or that lovely layers design. Burrs slip, causing wear. The ones that we designed with Timken, back when we were with Timken, has that tighter curvature, so that wear adds to the gripability because it will then increase the surface contact over time. And we did 50,000 cycles of applying a load, stopping the load, doing a pull test on all the different manufacturers. And with the Timken Auto Chuck, it started pretty steady, but then over time, at 50,000 cycles, it gripped harder than it did at first cycle because it wore in the Auto Chuck to grip. One of the things, side effects of the clamp pad Auto Chuck is centrifugal forces are a good thing and loads are even better. Safety feature with this mechanism is as the doctor cuts harder with the clamp pad type chuck system, it grips harder. And I'm sure most of you have experienced maybe a complaint, hey, after I use this, it's hard to get that burr out, and I heard a snap. Well, that's a good thing. That's a feature, safety feature, because that doctor cut harder than the intended use of that handpiece to where the chuck gripped even harder onto the burr. Does not happen on a wedge type chuck system or a Lair's chuck system. Those systems are affected by centrifugal forces. The clamp pad auto chuck, which NSK patented the design and we, let's say, improved on the design in our days with Timken. The harder they cut, the harder it'll pull. And I'm sure you guys have seen that. Once in a while you hear it snap when you get the handpiece back. Or if you test it and you really grind on it, you might hear a snap. Well, that's a good thing. That's that safety feature. May not always be understood by the end user, but it happens on all clamp pad type chuck systems. And that's what this one is. Originally designed and patented by NSK, called the Ultra Push in 1987. In 1997, the ISO standard for test protocol in the standard to manufacture a handpiece was changed to account for that run-in side load feature, or let's say benefit. So the protocol was rewritten and the standard was revised in 1997. Unfortunately, it's a complicated assembly and it costs a lot more to produce than any of the other auto chucks. And the reason is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 components plus the process to clamp this together, spot weld it, unclamp it, and circumference weld it. It's all expensive process, however, very reliable. Handpiece originally designed with it, Star, even the new concentrics. All NSK have clamp pad chuck systems. They've experimented with wedge type, and a couple models they've gone to a wedge type only because it's their lower end. Wedge type chuck systems are a lot less expensive. Clamp pad, 6 components. Wedge type, there's 3. The Shine brand that we have, 510K, we put a clamp pad design. And the new Metadenta Foresight, it's an internal generator handpiece that they have a license to distribute. W&H patented that feature in a dental handpiece. There's been a bazillion copies, junk coming out of China. And remember, if you have a Cavo 636 or 646 CP handpiece in your hand that our turbine didn't fit, and that handpiece has an internal LED generator, that's a counterfeit. I caution you even touching that handpiece.
All Chinese.
It's all Chinese. All Chinese junk. You can buy them for $30 off online. But it says Cavo. Who wouldn't buy a Cavo handpiece for $30 if it was real Cavo? I mean, it takes common sense to kind of think, wait a minute. I pay $1,200, $1,300 for this model here. Why is it $30 online? Brand new. Everything, even to the package, they copied. Anyways, wedge type chuck system. Right there is the chuck. It's a spring. It's EDM'd to cut the slots and the little flex hole. This is the actuator, and that's where it gets its name. It's the wedge. And how it's put together in the assembly, push on this button, forces this wedge into the fingers of the chuck to open and close it so that you can insert the burr. The wedge type chuck system works its best when it's new. Over time it degrades. This chuck system is adversely affected by centrifugal forces. It is only reliable up to about 465,000 RPM. Beyond that, the burrs, the fingers on the end of that chuck will expand through centrifugal forces, allowing the burr to slip inside that chuck system. One telltale sign that you may have already heard it, you put a burr in a Cavo handpiece and it runs to 475,000 RPM and you hear a high-pitched whistle. That's because the pin is slipping inside the chuck system. You're ruining that chuck system. You're overpressurizing that handpiece, making it run too fast. Good luck telling that to the dentist. They love turning them up. They want to get more noise out of it because more noise means better cutting.
Faster cut.
Faster.
No. It just causes problems. It's because the reliability of this chuck system is adversely affected by centrifugal forces. And when they are overpressurized, running at those high speeds, the chuck system is not gripping onto the shank of the burr well enough to eliminate it from spinning in the inside. It wears the inside of these fingers out quickly. It may pass your static pull test, but it's not reliable at speed. So make sure that your Cavo users are not overpressurizing it. There's a sweet spot of RPM versus torque. And most hand pieces they optimize the torque anywhere from 360 to 410,000 RPM, depending on the shape, size, and type of handpiece. That's where they get optimum torque. You increase the speed, the torque actually drops off because the chuck system becomes compromised, allowing it to slip, not providing you the level of torque that you do in the sweet spot, so to speak.
40 PSI?
Well, depending. What I recommend that you do is read the manufacturer's specifications.
No, 65 is a little high.
Yeah, on some, yeah. What you want to not achieve is exceeding speeds. Keep all handpieces below 420, even a star. Go to 430, 440 max on those, but the star has a clamp pad. But what happens at higher speeds, bearings degrade quicker. They're designed to handle up to 500,000 RPM, but so is your car capable of going 110 miles an hour, but not all the time. You're going to wear that car out quicker than if you're driving 55. The point I'm making is turning the speed up doesn't always benefit the doctor. Wedge type chuck system is the most common. Has a higher raw pull force because that chuck is pristine right out of the box. It'll hold up to 16 pounds, but push force is relative in most cases. Higher push force, higher pull force. Less reliable than clamp pad under load at speed because of that centrifugal force effect. In clamp pads, centrifugal forces side loads improve the gripability just because of the design. But it's a whole lot less expensive to produce. There's only 3 components. Cavo has a nut on the end, and they tighten that nut to keep things not tight, but taut, and then they weld it. Quick and easy. Handpiece is engineered with wedge-type chucks, all Cavo, Midwest, Serona, W&H, many others, because it's less expensive, but it's less reliable.
When you build a turbine for that particular handpiece, you're basically using the same type of...
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Our business model for our dynamic perfection is to be transparent to the original. All our Cavo premium line dynamic perfection have chucks almost exactly the same as Cavo. We have carbide burr guide bushings in them as well. What the burr guide bushing provides is more burr stability over long periods of time because the carbide bushing does not wear out. If it's a stainless steel bushing, over time it will become enlarged just from the flexing of the burr during use, during operation. That flexing diminishes the reliability of the chuck system. So with the carbide burr guide bushing, it holds it a lot more stable. Allows the chuck system to operate longer because it doesn't have to compensate for that burr whip, so to speak, although you can't see it. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Cable says that the operator should reductionally use OEM part.
Oh, of course they will.
How do you sell against that? I mean, what benefits can I tell them about the
Well,
product that we're offering versus them buying an OEM?
our premium product, Dynamic Perfection, is transparent to the original manufacturer. And what I mean by that is our Cavo product has carbide burr guide bushings. Every one of our Cavo cartridges that we are producing are using Cavo OEM bearings because we have access to those, because we consume close to 600,000 high-speed bearings a year. We have exclusive distribution rights to the GRW product. So in the eyes of Myonic and GRW, we are a manufacturer. And these features are not proprietary to any of those manufacturers except for two features. And one is a small little washer on some of the older models of cable that was welded to the inner ring. Those have been eliminated, obsoleted. No more of the cable product has that extra little washer. It's like a slinger. It'll deflect any debris that gets sucked back into the bearings when the handpieces stop running, but the turbine still turns. The other one is on the W&H. The back side, they have another shield welded to the outer ring. The ones that we have are the same bearing, but not the washer. The washer is proprietary, but the bearing itself is not. So. And all of our cable product is
Did that answer
perform.
your question?
There was a lot, that's like very good.
Well, here's what we do when we offer our repair services to our retail customers. We offer the OEM repair. Doctor will install a cable cartridge. You get a 1-year warranty. It's going to cost you $459. Here's another option. Our premium Dynamic Perfection Henry Schein branded product. You get a 1-year warranty, but it only costs you $289. Or we can install
That
a
answer
value
your
pack.
question?
We'll give you a 6-month warranty and it'll cost you $189. You choose. Guess which one they choose. Yeah. And it's because our stuff is, and we call it transparent. And in a lot of cases, we use auto chucks from manufacturers. We used to use the Midwest auto chuck on our Dynamic Perfection, but it was a piece of junk. It failed miserably. So we improved on it.
Yeah.
NSK product.
Don't want us to use generic medication as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's features and benefits, and we stand behind our product. We do the same process to value pack cartridges as we do to our mainline cartridges. Dynamic balance them. It goes through the same documentation, but there are features and benefits. So to sell that, doctor, sell them the warranty. That'll get you, and believe it or not, and I haven't discussed this with Paul, if you guys have an absolute drop dead, I only got to have an OEM turbine, let that man know, give me a call, we'll make an arrangement. But I don't recommend it. The guy's paying way too much for something he's not getting in return. Might give him that warm fuzzy feeling, but talk to him. What is he buying? They're buying a label, basically, but you're not getting anything more for it. And our stuff looks, feels, smells, performs, burn insertion depth the same, everything's the same. When that cartridge is in a cable handpiece, what does the doctor see? He sees the front of the spindle, sees a cable, sees one of ours. It's got that darker color shade of the carbide burgite bushing. Oh yeah, no problem. That's that transparency feature. Yes, sir.
Same thing with the other brands, Midwest, W&H.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep. Now I'll let you in on a little secret. Our layers. Let's go to layers. Lovely layers. That's their chuck system. The chuck itself's not bad. Where this really has a problem is in these loading springs. They stack 6 of them, and then they put a washer on the back side so that there's enough surface contact for this part of the spring, and then this part of the spring, when the bearing is installed, makes contact to the inner ring. Not a very reliable type of design. The chuck itself is pretty good because they have a carbide insert welded to the fingers, so it doesn't wear out that much. But where these really suck is right there, those springs.
Tell them, give me
Tell you. Where they're inefficient. Sorry. I'm talking way too much about this. Uh-oh, Larry's guy.
The finale is approaching, so
Oh,
5-minute warning, okay?
okay, thanks. Yeah, we're not even close to the end of it. But anyways, we make our premium product, our Dynamic Perfection layers using layers components. I hate it, but staying with our business model, that's what we do. There are customers out there that want it. So the little secret is buy our value pack for layers. In 2 of the models, the 757 multi-port and the 557 turbo has clamp pad auto chucks in them. And they're priced way less than what we make these unreliable ones. And here's one of the things. It's unique design only applicable to layers, impact air, and for a short time now, till it's discontinued, a precision torque that Layers makes for Shine the brand. Very questionable reliability. You cannot use conventional pull test or either a static one